Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well and I hope that you have a wonderful day. I am here to do an intuitive card reading to see what messages, insights, and guidance the universe wants to give us today, especially in regards to being the observer, not having harsh judgment for yourself or others, just seeing what is, allowing there to be space, having introspection, self-awareness, reflection, being able to go into the inner world, fill up your cup, that kind of thing. So let's take a look at the cards and see what the universe wants us to know. Okay, so we have sea sponges. Find courage to explore the unknown and let curiosity lead you through life's passages. Yeah, so many of us struggle with the unknown, which is why we often fall back onto our comfort zones, even if they're actually uncomfortable, even if we know that they're not the best thing for us, that, we need to venture out and do other things. We just like the familiar. And that could be unhealthy coping mechanisms that we use to run away from ourselves, from our emotions, from the past, whether that be trauma, uncomfortable truths, whatever it may be. But the universe is saying, hey, find the courage to go deeper. Find the courage to explore, to venture into the unknown, to open up the doors. Yeah, it may be uncomfortable, but it's going to lead you to new opportunities, all these blessings and magic and miracles. It's going to help you weather the storms, because, short term, it seems like those unhealthy coping mechanisms and, sidestepping things, sweeping things under the rug, acting like they're not there, that it actually helps you, but it's actually hindering and harming you, because it builds up pressure in one way or another. It's going to make itself known. The universe, it really wants us to start dealing with things when they're smaller, rather than letting them build and explode and having these huge messes to clean up. And it does take courage, because we can have a lot of insecurity, a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, but again, the universe wants us to remember that fear is false evidence appearing real. So, we may think that we're unlovable because of our past, our metaphorical or little scars, the shadow side, all that, but the universe wants you to know that you are truly beloved. The universe adores you. So have the courage to explore and go deeper. It's going to make a world of a difference, I promise. We have jellyfish. Embrace adaptability and go with the flow, allowing life's currents to guide you effortlessly. And that's part of the reason why the universe is calling us to be the observer, to just witness what is. And it feels also like, when it comes to other people, not trying to force them to do things or trying to get them to quote unquote see the light, to enlighten them, to change them, whatever. Let them be, let them do what they do, and just observe, witness where they are in their journey. And you can make, with using your discernment, make your decisions accordingly, because the truth is coming out for a lot of people. A lot of people aren't wanting to do the inner work. They're wanting to ignore their inner world, their emotions. They want to run away from it. And that's where they are at the journey. We're all human. We're all imperfect. And go with the flow. Maybe someone's having a rough day and you can show them some extra TLC. But if they're just going to keep lashing out at you and, hurting you in the process, you don't need to put yourself in that situation. That's why the universe is asking you for you to observe and make space for yourself and the other person. Because sometimes, we can be that person. And so if we can go with the flow, if we can open up, if we can allow, it's going to have things flow so much easier, so much more effortlessly. We're able to go with the flow instead of trying to, turn our boat metaphorically upstream and paddle against the stream, fight against the current, fight against the universe. We can work alongside it. It's easier said than done a lot of times, but it'll help us a lot. Okay. We have Siren Serenade. Embrace the rhythm of life and let your movements flow with the currents of change. Yeah, that's literally why the universe is saying, hey, go into observer mode. Make space. Allow. Don't, pass harsh critical judgments on yourself and other people. Just observe and witness where people are at. And, you can offer helping hands and you can offer them guidance and support, but also be aware and see if they're ready for it or if they're willing to hear, because they may not be at the point in their journey that they can handle it, that they can accept it, that they're willing to see it. And that's okay. Doesn't mean you have to put yourself in situations where you're getting metaphorically or literally beat up. I've been people's emotional punching bags plenty of times. They've treated me like a doormat. They've treated me like trash, a tool that's disposable they can toss out as soon as they get what they want out of me. So, yeah, we gotta have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, which is why the universe is saying, hey, go in observer mode. Tend to your inner world. Fill up your cup. Look inside of you. Reflect on you. See where you need to tend to yourself, but also just observe the world around you. And just because you are part of the world doesn't mean you need to play in its games, doesn't mean you need to follow its quote-unquote rules. Yes, to a certain extent we need to follow the rules, but, just because everyone around you is engaging in, for instance, manipulation, deception, arguments, anger, hatred, division, you don't need to play by those rules. You can witness it, you can observe it, and you'd be like, okay, I see what these people are about right now. And again, they can change, but you'd be like, okay, I'm going to go elsewhere. I'm going to tend to my inner world. I'm going to prioritize my peace of mind and my well-being, my joy, love, all of that. And so it's like, okay, you do you. I'm going to let you do you. You will reap what you have sown, not wishing ill on you, but I see you. I see you. And also, part of it is that usually when people are lashing out in anger, fear, all of that, it's that they're hurting. That doesn't give them a free pass for what they do, mind you. But as the saying goes, hurt people hurt people. Not all hurt people will go and hurt other people. I do my very best not to, because I've been on the receiving end of that so many times and it feels horrible. And so I try not to, send that out in the world. That's not the kind of energy I want to engage in and be a part of. But we gotta go with the flow and the rhythm of life. And there's going to be change. Like, I'm witnessing it just amongst people. Like, they're starting to recognize that the old ways no longer work, and they're having a rough time with it, guys. They really are. Which is why the universe is saying, hey, be adaptable. Hey, be flexible. Hey, go into the unknown. Be the observer. Go inward and fill up your cup. Yeah, try it. Remember that true strength comes from within. It really, really does. Because, yes, there are things like physical strength where you can move things, but it takes a lot of inner strength and resilience and endurance and determination and dedication to keep showing up kind in a world that has been very, very cruel, unforgiving, cold, disconnected, all of that. Like, I have lost count of how many times people have done me dirty and the number of people. I have been backstabbed, I have been betrayed, I have been, scapegoated, and all of these things. People have created these horrible smear campaigns about me. And when you're on the receiving end of that time and time again, it can be hard to choose to be kind and loving and peaceful. Like with what happened last year with that toxic group and the narcissists and all the nastiness and hurt and wrongdoing that they were doing, I could very much see why people would, retaliate and be petty back and, do the same kind of hurt tactics and all that, like to go tit for tat. I understood it. Part of me was like, it feels very justified if I were to do this, but I'm like, is that really the energy I want to engage in? And I sat with it and I reflected. I went inward. I was the observer of myself, my emotions, as well as everybody else that was a part of the situation. And I was like, yeah, I don't subscribe to this. I don't want any part of this. And I tried after letting myself cool down and not come from a place of rage and hurt and just the disrespect of it all, but I tried to have a peaceful resolution. I tried to create space to have all sides be heard and try to come together and work through it. They didn't want that. And so I had to find the inner strength to walk away, to not, engage in all the nastiness, because it's not easy when it feels like everyone you're witnessing around you is doing the exact same thing, and they seem to like they can be hypocrites and have double standards and be like, oh, people can't do this to me, but they can do that to other people. Like, it's a whole thing. So yeah, true strength really does come from within. So don't sell yourself short, because if you are doing the inner work, it shows how much strength you have. If you are willing to be open, honest, genuine, real, and vulnerable, that is not weakness. That is a strength. And a lot of times the people who are going on about how, the kind and gentle, loving, peaceful, vulnerable, honest, open people are weak, it's because they are projecting and they are insecure because they see your strength and they don't like that they don't have it. Not in a mean way. I'm not trying to talk down on them, but that's the reality of the situation. They see your strength and they recognize their own weakness, and so they have to try to make themselves feel better by bringing you down. That's how those types of people usually see the world and how they, feel secure. It's sad, but it is what it is. Seaweed. Vulnerability, okay. Find beauty in vulnerability and let your resilience shine through life's challenges. That's the thing. That's the thing. There are so many pretenders, so many fakes, so many copycats and clones, and people just like trying to fit in these boxes and put on shows and have the charades and all of these things, but there's beauty in vulnerability. You are real. You are genuine. You are authentic. And the fact that if you can be open to trust and to love and be forgiving and kind and look for peace and fun and joy and all that, when people have done you dirty time and time again, when they've hurt you time and time again, when they've disrespected you and betrayed you and backstabbed you and slandered you and threw mud, like all these things, it lets your resilience shine through because you know who you are. You have that strong internal foundation. And yeah, some days you may be crying your eyes out and you may need to rest and process your emotions and all that, but you have so much strength. You have such strength of character and integrity and accountability and just brilliance, and the world needs more of that to shine through. The world needs you, which is why the universe is asking us to go in observer mode, to look inward, to reflect, to look at ourselves and see how we're showing up in the world and if we need to heal and process and do better. Because the thing is, we're all works in process. Like works in progress, because we're processing, we're learning, we're growing. We're humans, we're flawed, we're imperfect. So no one's ever going to have it all together. No one's ever going to have all the answers. But you have a brilliant, beautiful resilience that the universe is asking for you to shine through. Yeah. Open your heart. Love yourself. Dare to be vulnerable. That's the thing. The universe is asking for us to bring more love into the situation, to be kinder and gentler with ourselves and everyone around us, which is why the universe is asking for us to observe, to allow, to make space. Because so often, there's no space. There's no space for our emotions. There's no space for our processing. There's no space for us to be authentic, real, and genuine, to be vulnerable. So we need to open up our heart and allow. It's going to allow us to receive so much, and it's going to open up all these doors. But we have to open up, to trust, to allow, to be vulnerable. And it's not always easy, It can be really, really hard. But when we do, it allows for all this soul healing. Align with your essence, see your true colors, And again, that's what the universe is saying. You have such a beautiful soul. Your strength and character, your resilience, you have such brilliant strength. You have such brilliant resilience and endurance, and you've gone through so much, and you have so much to offer the world. So do yourself a favor and fill up your own cup. See yourself for who you truly are. Not just your weaknesses, not just your flaws, not just your areas for growth, but your strengths, the skills you've acquired, the resources that you have to, share, the connections you have made, all that you've learned, all that you have grown, because you've come so far. And yes, we're still works in progress, so we have further to go, but you have come so far, and the universe is so proud of you, and it wants you to recognize that. You really have come so far and done so much good. Yeah. See with your heart, the time is now to hear the messages. And that's the thing. So often we can get caught up in our mind. And this is why the universe is wanting us to go inward, to see and feel with our heart, to listen to our heart and our soul, what it is we need to feel, what it is we need to process, what it is we need to let go, what it is we need to do to move forward. Because when we go inward, when we're the observer, when we're not, always trying to be on the go and be, productive and do, like when we're rushing around, we're not giving time to process, to be, to receive the insights and the guidance from our soul and from the universe. And so the universe is wanting us to go inward, to see with our heart, to open our heart, to, let love in, and to be vulnerable. And it's going to open up all these doors for us. It's going to be a brilliant wave of transformation. It's really powerful right now. Yeah, the way is clear. Awaken the power within you. And that's why the universe is wanting you to go in, to have introspection, to observe, to reflect, to have self-awareness, to be mindful, to process, to heal, because you have so much inside of you that you don't recognize. You have so much potential, so much power. You have the power to change the world. And, you might just like, oh, well, I'm just one person, and I'm not like a big influencer, or I don't know that many people. I'm an introvert. I'm pretty shy. I don't go out and do much. The thing is, even the smallest acts can have huge ripple effects. Think about it. If you throw one stone into a pond or a lake, the ripples reach out very far from that impact point. It can just go across the whole lake or pond. And so it was just one act of throwing that stone, but it's like the butterfly effect, where they say, if a butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the earth, it can turn into a hurricane or a storm on the other side. That's the thing. You may be just one person, and you may not think you make that much of a difference, but even the smallest acts from you will make a world of a difference. So see your power, see your potential, give yourself more credit, and even just you focusing on yourself, processing your emotions, allowing yourself to heal, allowing yourself to come from your heart space and have an open mind and an open heart to be vulnerable, to do the inner work. That's going to have a world of a difference, because you are going to be showing up in the world differently. You're going to be interacting with other people differently. You're not coming from an unconscious, emotionally triggered space anymore. You're coming from a more mindful, aware, peaceful, calm state. And it's going to make a world of a difference. It really is. So even if you're just one person, don't sell yourself short. And yeah, walk your own journey. It is essential to stay on your own path. You don't have to be other people, which is part of the reason why the universe is saying be the observer. You don't need to compare yourself to other people. You don't need to make judgments and be like, oh man, they're so much further ahead of me, or they're so much better than me, or I'm falling behind. You don't need to worry about that. Focus on yourself. Go inward and compare yourself, if you're going to compare anything, to who you used to be and how much you've grown, how much progress you've made, how much healing you've done. Because if you're listening to this kind of content, you are so far in your journey. Not to say that other people haven't done any kind of work on themselves and aren't far in their journey because they have their own unique path, but you are open-minded. You recognize the power of energy. You know that there's the divine, the universe, the source that's on your side, that has your back. And it's going to help you just to stay focused on you and being the best version of yourself. Be the best version of yourself and watch magic happen. So we have reindeer travel. And this feels like it may be you traveling in the physical, like going on vacation, going on a trip, visiting other people, or maybe even finding a new home. Or it could be in a sense of traveling internally, going into your inner world, because so much in this modern society, there's emphasis on being in the external that the internal gets neglected. So, maybe you're using your internal travel to, imagine and daydream and fantasize about your dream life to help manifest and bring it into the physical reality. Maybe you're just traveling in terms of meditation, journaling, introspection. Like, there's so many different ways you could be traveling right now. And it's going to be really, really powerful. Yeah. So it probably is a lot more of the internal travel with imagination, unicorn. And the thing is, the imagination is such a powerful tool and resource. It can be used for good or for bad. We can use our imagination to our detriment when we get into those negative narratives and the limiting beliefs and those loops and the what if game, like what if the worst thing happens, what if this happens, like how we can get in those loops and those downward spirals. And that's using our imagination against ourselves. But we can also use our imagination to, play the what if game of what if the best thing happens? What if everything works out for me? What if this good thing happens, And we can also use our imagination to, explore our dream life and, having fun friends or like trips that we can go with our friends and family and, where we would want to go and what we would want to do. The imagination is really, really powerful. We also have fox discernment, and yeah, that's a very important thing to use our discernment, because a lot of times we'll have our intuition, but the outside world could tell us like, no, don't listen to that. There's no proof, there's no evidence. Like, the toxic group did that a lot to me about how I would bring something up or like just a possibility, a potential. Not saying it's necessarily true or not, but like, oh, it could be. And they would just rain down and be like, you're being crazy. What are you talking about? Like, there's no scientific evidence that energy isn't real, blah, 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 blah. And so, use your discernment. Energy doesn't lie. If something feels off, there's a reason for that. I've had so many instances of that. But then you also can use your discernment to feel out what resonates and what is on the right path for you. And so, discernment, intuition, instinct, those are all powerful tools to help get you on your path to stay in alignment. So we have say goodbye to shame. This is part of the reason why the universe wants you to go inward and to observe, because a lot of times when we do go inward, if we choose to, we'll feel these feelings of things like shame and guilt and pain, and we'll judge ourselves and be like, oh, well, I shouldn't be feeling negative feelings because negative feelings are bad, and good vibes only. And so you like try to shove it away and sidestep it. But feel what you need to feel. Don't fixate on it. Don't obsess over it. Don't allow it to fester. Feel the shame, feel the guilt, feel the sorrow, the pain, the suffering, the worry, the anxiety, whatever it is you need to, so it can flow through you. Because emotions are energy in motion, but a lot of times we get them stuck in our body because we end up clinging on to them to tell certain narratives, to make ourselves the victim, to, cling on to hatred, division, vengeance, bitterness, all of that. But we can process those feelings. We can be the observers, like, oh, I see. Like with our inner child, when we were children, our parents, if you're like me, would guilt you and shame you for feeling anything. And so you learned not to feel, to just be like, nope, nope, everything's great, because it wasn't safe and okay to feel. It's like, you can sit with your inner child. You can observe and be like, oh, I see you're feeling, shame and worry and anxiety and guilt. And it's because of this. And it's like, you know what? It's okay. You can feel. You're human. You're allowed to feel. And to like sit with your inner child and to give them those, metaphorical hugs and love and care, and watch as the shame and the guilt and the sorrow and the pain and all that starts to melt away. Because you're no longer guilting and shaming yourself for feeling. Because you're sitting with yourself and creating space for it to exist. And when you stopped fighting it, that's when it was allowed to get free. Because when we fight things, when we resist, when we try to sidestep and bury and, sweep it under the rug, that just allows it to grow bigger, because you're building the pressure. But we don't have to keep it inside of us anymore. We can make space for it to flow, to release. Yeah, release the guilt. Allow it to flow like water. Flow like water. Let your emotions flow. Because it won't be forever. The pain won't last forever. Like, speaking from a personal experience, like with what happened with that toxic group and the narcissist, there was a lot of guilt, there was a lot of shame, there was a lot of doubt from their manipulation, their deception, all of that, their guilt tripping, invalidation, smear campaigns, all of that. And so I started to question myself, I started to doubt myself, I started feeling guilty and shame, because I was like, oh, I'm hurting them and I'm not trying to. And like, I was getting stuck in those negative narratives and those loops. And once I started to walk away, once I started to, pause, to breathe, to process, to spend time with myself, to observe and to see where I'm at, I was allowing my emotions to flow instead of getting so caught up in their narratives and their timelines, because they tried to pressure me. Like, oh, if you don't respond by, 2 days from now, then bad things are going to happen. And I'll know that you don't care about me, this, that, and the other. It's like, I needed my own timing. I needed to process. And so once I was able to do that, step away, detach from them, let them be in their own little whatever they're dealing with, and just observe myself, sit with myself, make space for myself. The emotions were, able to flow, to process, and they were able to be released. And I was able to, yes, I ended up crying a lot because it was such a toxic, hurtful situation, but in the end, I was stronger for it. In the end, I was able to release it and get back to my peace, to my joy. And we don't need to be having all this guilt and shame anymore. Feel what you need to feel. But yeah, your pain is not your identity. All the hurt people have done to you, all the scars, whether they're metaphorical or literal, all the trauma, all the suffering, that's not who you are. You are more the strength of your character, your resilience, that inner strength, how you were able to overcome so much. You are love and light incarnated as the divine's beloved child. Like, you are not the victim of your story. Yes, people may have done you dirty. They may have hurt you. They may have wronged you. Like, I'm not saying that didn't happen, but you are not your pain. You can overcome that. You can transmute it. You can become so much more and break free and metamorphosize into the butterfly. You don't have to give them power over you, because people like that, they like having the power over you. They like having the knowledge that, they were able to cause you to suffer and be in their misery, because misery loves company. But if you're able to find peace and happiness again through your inner strength and resilience, letting your true color shine, that will drive them crazy. Not that that's the end goal of what you're doing it for, but they can't stand it. They don't understand it because they haven't been able to overcome their own pain, their own misery, their own suffering, their own insecurity, their own doubt. But you were able to. and you are still writing your story. Yeah, this is your turning point. This is your turning point. Like, you may feel like at your wit's end and like have so much struggle and so much suffering and like be feeling these deep waves of emotions. I'm there with you. I had that earlier this week. But the universe wants you to know your story isn't over. It is using anything and everything that's going on in your life for your benefit. It is building you up. It can use even the people who are trying to work against you and, have your demise and all that. They can use that to springboard you forward into all these blessings, magic, and miracles. This is your turning point. You can turn the page to a new chapter. This is not the end. And, sometimes that's hard to believe when you're in the thick of your emotions, but this is why the universe is wanting you to go inward, to process, to sit with yourself, to observe, to not judge yourself, to show yourself more love, compassion, gentleness, and respect. Like, it sees how amazing you are, and it wants you to recognize it. And you might be like, well, nobody treats me right. Well, that could be partially because you don't see your own worth. Because, the energy you put out into the world comes back to you. And that's not to say that, like with me, when I was putting out all this kindness and peace and all that, and the other people did me dirty, it's like, that's not saying anything about me. That's talking about them and their own energy. Like, that's their thing to deal with. But you need to start recognizing your own worth, because what I learned from that situation was, like, in the beginning of that whole situation was I was giving grace and forgiving, but I wasn't seeing my own worth, and I was not having strong enough, healthy enough boundaries, if that makes sense. And so I didn't recognize my true worth because I was allowing minor mistreatments that evolved into much bigger mistreatments. And so this is part of like the turning point, is where you're starting to recognize your own worth, where you're not allowing all the nastiness anymore, the disrespect, the wrongdoing. It's like, no, I'm going to have strong, healthy boundaries, and I'm not going to associate with the nasty people. Like, I will walk away, I will create more space, I will go more silent, I may even cut ties, And yeah, your soul knows the way. This is why the universe is asking for you to go inward, to meditate, to journal, to reflect, to have introspection, to have the self-awareness, to be mindful, to maybe go to therapy, whatever it is you need to do. Go inward, because your soul knows the way. Your soul knows the way. See with your heart and soul. Walk your own journey, because you need to have your own path, and the way is clear. Once you go inward and you have that inner clarity, because you are super resilient, you do have true strength from within, the path is going to become clear. Your soul knows the way, so listen to yourself. You know the way. You are so much more knowledgeable and resourceful and resilient and stronger than you ever thought possible. You really are. So we have the moon, changes in your life, and it's because as above, so below, as within, so without. Your internal world is reflected in the external world. So if you're doing all this inner work, if you are processing, if you're healing, if you're being the observer and creating space for yourself, where you're finally allowing yourself to fully be seen and heard by you, you are tending to your inner child, it's going to open up all of this change, and it's going to change everything. It's going to shift your reality. It's this turning point again. And so know that a lot of good is coming your way, and you've come so far. So give yourself more credit. Give yourself more credit. Yeah, it's lighting the way. Torch, spiritual development, enlightenment, awareness, and understanding. You are learning, growing, and understanding so much. You have come so far, and you truly do have so much inner strength. You have such beautiful resilience. And yeah, use your discernment so that you're trusting and being open and vulnerable with the right people, because not everybody else is going to treat you with kindness and respect. Not everyone else is going to be gentle with your heart, with your emotions. Been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. I have learned the hard way, and I now know more about narcissism. Didn't think I'd have to, go that deep into that rabbit hole, but know the science now. And there's a lot of understanding that we're reaching. The old ways aren't working anymore because we're not playing by those games anymore. We're not, going into the drama and the conflict and the chaos and the manipulation, the deception and being coerced into things. We're prioritizing peace, harmony, love, joy, well-being, wind chimes. The winds of change are coming. Again, change is here. The winds of change are bringing all this fresh life, all this peace, all this harmony, all this love, all this laughter. It's really going to help us thrive because we know who we are. We're going to have that strong internal foundation so that even when, life gets stormy, we're going to know who we are and have that foundation. We're going to have those deep roots. And yeah, we might need to go on a vacation, whether literal or metaphorical, a vacation in our imagination or literally traveling somewhere in the physical, whether it's a staycation, you're just getting out of your normal routine, or you're actually going somewhere just to have a fresh start, reset. Vacation can be very, very helpful. Okay, so yeah, the universe wants you to know these both came up about your wish, like the true wish of your heart and soul. Your soul knows the way. You're doing all this healing. You're opening your heart. Wishbone, a wish is granted. Needle and thread, a sincere wish will be granted. Like, you are receiving all this blessing, magic, and miracles from the universe. Things are working out in your favor because you're doing the inner work, because you are tending to your emotions. You're sitting with your inner child. You're not judging. You're creating space. And it's going to allow everything to flow so much easier. You're not going to judge and ridicule yourself. You're not going to guilt and shame yourself anymore. You're going to allow yourself to be human, and you're going to lift yourself up. You're still going to hold yourself accountable and have integrity and, strength of character. You're not going to give yourself a free pass and be like, oh yeah, I can just be nasty to other people. It's like, but you're seeing yourself for a human and allowing yourself to feel your feelings. You're not saying, oh, it's wrong for you to be hurt because they did something wrong and they lied to you and they betrayed you. It's like, no, you have every right to feel that way. We don't need to stay in that forever, but feel what you need to feel. Allow it to process, allow it to flow, because it's going to help you have all these wishes come true. Everything's working out for you. This really is the turning point. Your soul knows the way, so listen. Go inward and listen. I'm sending you so much love. I hope that you have a fabulous rest of your day. Please take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.